All right, so we are on the air. I'm
Okay.
This is Brett Bueter, and I'm here with Craig Phillips, and we're going to take a look at setting up a magazine-styled theme, actually magazine theme from Studio Press on Craig's site, Second Chance to Live. How are you doing, Craig?
Good, sir. Thank you so much for your time, your kindness, and your wizardry.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn on screen share real quick, and we're going to switch over so that we can see the site, and that should show up in just a second or two.
Yes,
Um,
sir. I see it.
you see it? Okay, so
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna click over to the home page. This is Second Chance to Live. This is a website and blog that you've been working on for several years, Craig.
Yes, since February 6, 2007.
Right, and this you've written a lot of blog articles over the years,
Four,
and
1428.
right, so that's 28 more than a lot. No, I'm kidding. That's a lot of blog articles. And one of the things about the site is it's grown and filled in with lots of articles, and we need to find some new way to help people that visit find the articles they're looking for. Now, they can easily find the most recent article because this is set up currently on a theme that runs, a blogging styled theme. The most recent article shows up on top, but a lot of those other older articles are still valid and useful and helpful articles for people to read, but it's difficult to find them.
Yes.
And the site has a sitemap of all the articles you've written, and it's got a list of all the categories of what those articles could have been organized under a little bit. And we've separately started some work to reorganize the category structure of the site. That's still something that's in progress, but we're going to preview what the magazine theme might look like today if we were to switch. And the useful thing about a magazine theme is it helps organize content based on categories is one of the items that you can organize stuff under.
Okay.
So we're going to dive in a little bit. We're going to go into the admin area of this site. Load in there, and while I'm heading there, I'll mention that the site's running on a GoDaddy managed WordPress hosting account, and we're going to go down to the appearance section within WordPress admin, and we're going to go to themes and load that in. And right now we're running a particular theme called Blue Sip, and we need to add a couple more themes. We're adding a theme from Studio Press. Studio Press themes run on the Genesis framework, and so we need to load in two new themes. One of them is going to be the parent theme. That's Genesis itself. You can think of that as like a subsystem of WordPress, but it's the thing that will power the actual theme, the style that we're going to add in, which will
Okay.
be, that's called a child theme. So we're going to load a parent theme, Genesis, and a child theme, which is called the magazine theme. So I'm going to hit Add New, and we want to upload a theme. Now, we could search for some free themes through WordPress, but we want to upload a theme. I happen to have license for the theme myself on my computer, so I've got the files here locally. So I'm going to go in, going to choose the file, and first I need to load in the parent theme, and that's called Genesis. That's right. I've got Genesis 2.1.2 loaded in here. When we load it in, there'll probably be an update available, which I'll eventually get as well. But we'll load this in first. We hit install, and basically it takes the zip file and it uploads it into your WordPress installation. And we don't want to preview or activate, nothing like that yet. This is a parent theme, not an actual styled, ready to look at type of theme. It simply needs to be loaded in such that the other Genesis themes will run later. They connect to each other and enable each other to work. So we're going to upload another one now. Choose the file again. This time we're looking for Magazine Pro. And there's probably some updates available for this one as well. So I'm going to load it in first, and then we'll go look for the latest versions and get those updated real quick automatically. Okay, so that's loaded in. And I'm going to go into the update section of WordPress and see if it can find our updates for those themes real quick so that we've got the latest version. Hit check again real quick and see if it can check. Sometimes these take a minute or two for WordPress to catch on. Maybe we'll flush the cache real quick too. That might help. Or we can just go back. We'll come back to that in a little bit. So we've got these themes loaded in, and we can see the parent theme for Genesis right here. That's not something we'll ever turn on, but there's another one down here called Magazine Pro. And there's a couple different ways that we can look at this theme. One of them is to do a live preview. And essentially, this is what the theme would look like if we turned it on right away from Go. Now, it's not going to look right yet. So there's a few different things that's happening here. We have some widgets on the current live site that show up in a sidebar. Let me open up another tab real quick just to explain what the widgets are. Okay, just checking. Can you see the Second Chance to Live site still?
Yes, sir.
The homepage of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So on the old theme, the theme is organized with the title of the site up here at the top. We've got a menu bar and system here. Then we have the content in a large section over here on the left, and we have in something called the sidebar a number of widgets.
Yes.
So there's you've got widgets to translate the site into multiple languages, and a way to subscribe via email, pick up the feed, some pictures, a list of recent posts, and more. When we look at the preview of the new theme, those widgets go somewhere, and there's many different places for the widgets to go in the magazine theme. They just happen to default up here. So our initial default view places the widgets all at the top. Now we won't want them there if we use this theme. This is a temporary place. We'd want to place them somewhere else. And we can find a different place to put those by coming into the preview here and changing things around. So I'm going to take a look at where the widgets are. We can see them right now all listed in the header. So this would be the top part of the new theme. And we wouldn't necessarily want all of these widgets in the top part of that theme. We would want them somewhere else. We could reorganize the order of them. So if we wanted the translation to move up or down, we could do that. If we wanted the RSS button to move up or down, we could do that as well.
Yes.
And see the end result. And this is all, none of this has been saved and activated. So this has not been turned on the site yet, which is good. We don't want to go live just yet with these changes. So make sense so far?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we have, within this particular theme, we have a lot of other places where we could put widgets. We have something called primary sidebar. That's also on the side of the site. But we have some other areas too. We have a top section, a middle section, and a bottom section. All of these show up on the home page. Plus we have a footer, things that show up on the bottom of the site. So we could start to move some of these things around into some other areas. We could take the calendar and the archives, for example, and we might put those, and maybe the copyright instructions, and we could put those down in the footer. So I'm going to come over here, and we're going to add a widget. We'll pull in the archives, and we'll pull in the calendar. Let's see, there we go. And we've actually got a couple different footers. I'm going to move the calendar into the middle one, to the second footer slot. And what was that? The copyright instructions. I'm going to recreate this just a little bit. Now, since we are working on something that hasn't been activated, drag and drop isn't as easy at this point, but that's okay. Sometimes it helps to do things a little slower. So we're going to come down here and we're going to find a new text widget. Good, close it. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom of the site, we start to see these archives, the calendar, and the copyright instructions showing up at the bottom. Now, in the theme currently they stack. That's partly because we're looking at something that's not full screen because it's just in this area. When we're looking at this normally, there'd be a little bit more space there and it wouldn't. They'd show up next to each other, left, middle, and right. We'll get back to that later. What's happening is this is a mobile responsive theme.
Yes.
So one of the challenges that we have with the current site is that it's not mobile responsive. And so when a visitor tries to view the site from a mobile device, they have to look at the full screen. Everything that's on the left stays on the left and this stays on the right. It just gets smaller. And when I look at the site, for example, on an iPhone, I usually see about 3 words within the width of this main content area. So I read 3 words and then it's the next line and I read 3 more words. And it gets a little tight to be able it becomes a little tedious to attempt to read and view this on a mobile phone.
Yes, sir.
So we want to, one of the advantages of changing themes is going to be, it's going to be a little bit more readable on a mobile device. So as it gets squeezed down to the size of a mobile, people will get a little bit more text in there in that same amount of width. And the sidebars will end up being pushed into other areas. Make sense?
Sounds good to me.
Yep, so that's a starting point. So let's see, we have a few other items in here as well. So we also, within this particular theme, we have a couple new sections where we can add content. And Genesis gives us a way to add content that's based on category. So we can come in here and we can pick a specific Genesis widget called featured posts. And I'm going to click that and add it. And now we can come in and we can pick all the articles, all the blog articles that are in a specific category on the site. So let's see. Now, currently we're in the midst of a category cleanup. So there's lots and lots and lots of categories here, right?
Yes.
And we eventually are going to narrow this down and only use a few categories. I believe caregivers might be one of those. Is that one of the future ones?
Potentially.
Okay, so, or actually, we can kind of see that list over here, I believe, right, in the article categories.
Right.
So, self-disclosure, on hope, that is, self-esteem, self-acceptance. Those would be some of the new ones.
Yes, sir.
And so let's look at some of the self ones. Self-esteem would be one of them, and we could say we're going to create a little subsection on our homepage, and we want to see the most recent 3 articles. So I'm putting the number 3 in here that have this particular category. And when we pull those in, we want to show the title of it, and we want to show something called content limit. We want to show, let's say, the first 300 characters of that article, and then we're going to add a read more link after it. And if there happens to be a featured image associated with it, we want to show that as well. And we can center that image if we want, or we can put it to left, right, or no placement at all. I'm going to center it. And let's see, we have a number of other options, which I won't cover just yet, but I'm going to come in and also I'm going to put a title for this section. We'll call it Articles on Self-Esteem, or related to self-esteem, or something like that. So we've added our section, and now when I scroll back to the top, we still have our original widgets. We haven't deleted any of those yet. We can now see some articles on self-esteem. So people, and they'll see the title of the article, the first 300 characters, a large red read more button so that they can go drill in and finish reading the article.
Right.
And it stops at 3. Now we can do another one of those, and we'll add in another category. I'm going with the self theme, so let's go to self improvement this go around. Improvement, and let's say we know that these articles are even more popular with our readers than the previous section. So we're going to show 5 of these instead of just 3. We want to put more of those on the home page than we had on the other one. And let's say we want to show just a little bit more text on these. So we'll do 450 characters. And we could customize our button text if we wanted to. To something different. I'm just showing how that's done. Show a featured image if there is one. And that looks good. We've got our title in there, so I'm going to close that. And now we can see, so going back, we've got our articles on self-esteem that we did first. 1 article, 2 articles, 3 articles, and then it goes into another section, which is broken up with this black bar, articles on self-improvement, a little bit more text, 4 lines plus, 1 article, continue reading this article button, 2 articles, 3 articles, 4 articles, 5 articles. So we got 5 articles there, and that's all in the home top section. Now maybe, in addition to all of that, maybe we want to feature, since this is the top of our page, we want to feature our most recent article that we've written at all, and we want to show the whole thing. So this time we're going to show the post title, and we're going to show the content. All of it essentially is what that says when we pick that one. Show the content, no limits, show everything. And we're only going to show one of those. We're not going to show all of our articles, just one. We'll show the featured image if we have one. We'll make it sort of large if it's there. And we'll give this a title of most recent blog article. Close that, and as we scroll up, oops, hang on a second, not seeing it. Oh, that's because I put it at the bottom. I'm going to drag and drop this now to the top. That's what I meant to do, so I'm not seeing it. So now it's going to show our most recent blog article at the top, and that should show the entire article, which we see here. So people, when they come to the home page, they can read this entire article. They don't have to click anywhere. We want them to see our most recent article. After they've scrolled through that, they can get into some of our other important articles, which we have 2 sections here, and kind of go on. Now we can do, that's all in one section called the home top.
So will that in the future, my most recent article will be fully read, or do I have to go in to make it, so that they're reading my most recent article, or my most recent article just going to show up in this section?
Well, we are not going to dedicate or change any of these things yet. This is what could be. And
okay.
As we go through this right now today,
yes.
You might decide that you do want to make the change, and maybe we do end up turning this live and leaving it on today. If you like what you see,
right,
it can be adjusted later. Part of what we're doing right now is allowing you to get a feel for what this looks like and how it can work, so that you can then work to reorganize your vision of what the site should do for people in a way that works for you and for your audience. So picture this like I like to use the description, especially with magazine themes. This is like a super closet organizer where you can adjust the sizes or the placeholders for the things that you want to put in the closet. And so we can have an area if we want where we show the whole article. We don't have to, it's optional.
Right.
We can have another section that shows most recent 3 articles on self-esteem, and then 5 articles on self-improvement. And we can go farther. We can go into a middle section, and we can add a couple more. So I'm going to come into featured posts, and let's see, what was one of our, let me find another category. This time, let's take a look at on service, let's say. So we're going to come in, and we're going to find the category for articles on service. Scrolling down to the O's. Oh, we don't see that yet. So that's not in the actual, it may be a category, but there's no post within that new item yet. So let's find a different one. Self-disclosure, maybe.
Where did you type in the S for subject?
I'm not typing, I'm just scrolling.
Okay.
I'm just looking.
Okay.
So we need to find actual categories that have been set up. These, I think, some of these are placeholders over here right now. There's life on peace, social stigma. Let's maybe dig into a couple of the specifics. Injuries caused by explosions versus concussions. We'll pick that, and maybe we only want to show one of those, and add that, and I'm going to add a category link so people can see more of those if they choose. So there's one. So here that shows an article from February, and I'm going to add another widget then for featured posts. And do concussions in sports. Show the post title. Again, we'll show one. Featured image if we have it. And the category link. So we've got a couple more mini sections. Now, in this case, this is showing the same article. That's partly because these articles, if we open those, take a look at them, as we look at this article right now, it was posted in multiple categories. This is one of the things we're cleaning up. So this article has lots and lots of categories that it's posted under. So when we post either of those 2 specific categories, this article is in both categories, and so it's not getting organized. It's kind of duplicated, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much for helping me clean up all these and get rid of making them into tags, as you said.
Right. So that's one of the things that we need to do. One of the next steps. So this, we don't necessarily want the same article to show up twice here. We'd like to see a specific, if we were going with this particular category, we'd want to see a specific article related to brain injuries caused by explosions. And
right.
We'd want to see another article that relates specifically to concussions from sports.
Right. The predicament that I found myself is if you go to the front page, and under the search category, if you go in and you say, down down here under search and you were to enter in traumatic brain injury,
Mm-hmm.
say, and you click on that, you will have to just go, just click on that, and then I'll show you what happens. Okay, I got this, and then got a bazillion, because initially what I did is I was setting up these categories thinking that by using them, that it would give the information to the demographic of individuals living with brain injuries. And although it's geared towards people with brain injuries, the implication from the article can have universal application. But I'm running into the predicament that I, just said, in that it's just linking back to so many different articles that it's not specifying what those articles are about. And
Right.
That's the conundrum that my current system is set up.
So we've got some, as I look through these articles, for example, I see a couple challenges. So we've got traumatic brain injury and defining success.
Right. So, a lot of the articles are, in the prefix, there is traumatic brain injury.
And so part of our issue is that the whole site, to a certain extent, covers a larger topic of traumatic brain injury. We do not need every single blog article to have traumatic brain injury.
Right.
Title. So in this particular article, the title probably should be defining success.
Right.
And it should not have all the categories that it's tagged under either.
Right.
It should only have something relating to success. So if we were to fix this particular article, and some of these, there's 1,428 that need to be amended a bit, we would need to come in here, delete that part of the title, and strip it down to just defining success.
But how would the search engines then, since it's been defined under that category?
Well, right now, since everything is posted in everything, and the keywords are added everywhere, the same keywords are used everywhere, the search engines right now are very confused about what any of these articles are really about.
Right.
So if I say everything is red, no matter what, and people start to see green and blue and yellow as a analogy,
right,
it won't, my naming convention, or they'll get confused when they don't find something that's red.
Okay.
So we need to similarly, we would need to come in here and remove some of these checks. So this should be on defining success. What is my destiny would not be, a number of these items should not be in the categories. They should be taken out. Now, I'm not going to save this just yet. We need some further work, but one way we could do this is to go through article by article and remove all these categories, and then just pick the one single category that this article actually should be loaded up underneath.
Is there any way to do this in a one swoop?
There are ways to do it in a few swoops. So on success is a future category that this could be organized under, for example. And so what we would need to do would be, get back in here, this particular article, defining success, it would make a lot of logical sense that it should be in the new category called that will be all about success, right? On success is the...
Right.
So we would want to come down here and make sure that this one is added to that new category. If it's created, I'm not sure. We'll see in just a second. It's not in there yet. So we would add that as a category on success. Add that category for this particular article. And I believe it should bump up to the top. So that's listed. And then all these others would become things that get tagged. And so let me go ahead and save this part of it. And I'll show you what I mean by converting some of these things to tags. We'll add a little bit more to this video that we're doing here.
How do you, then would I have to go through, how does it be able to distinguish, say you made a new category on success, yet all those other categories that are checked in there, that are already checked, how will they be converted and the one on success not be affected by the tag converter?
So we need to do exactly that. We need to do some tag conversion. Let's see. I don't believe we have the tag converter set up yet. So what we need to do is go into categories, I believe, and just double check something. I'm just checking to see what we have here.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. And so we have all of these categories, and these categories are not these items here, this article categories. These are the future categories that you want to use, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so those are the ones we want to have or to keep, and many of these others need to become tags.
Yes.
So what we need then is a tagged category converter. We need a new plugin. So I'm going to go to plugins real quick. Do a quick search. I don't remember the plugin off the top of my head. There's several of them out there. Category to tags converter, install now. I'm going to turn on that plugin.
And that's a safe one, good one?
Yeah. Okay. That might be under tools. Or it might be under...
I really appreciate you doing this because my readers, I mean, people that are cognitively challenged to begin with, trying to work their way through a maze could be, it just is discouraging. People don't want to go through that, even people without cognitive deficits. It's just, it's an overwhelming task to try to migrate. So thank you so much.
No problem. Now, I noticed we have a few categories that have no blog articles in them. I've come into the categories again because I don't want to convert something to a tag that we won't actually use.
Right.
So this is some of these items that we don't have any articles in them yet. Now, I think a couple of these are our future categories.
Right.
So I don't want to delete the future ones, the ones that we do want to have in the future, but there are several in here that we won't want to keep at all. So accomplishing a goal through principles does not have any articles in it. Neither does article categories, Bruce Lee, completing projects. Each one of these are currently, I'm going to leave those two there. I think they might be able to go, but I'm going to. So we have a number of these that we can simply delete and get rid of.
Right. And it'll make it more universal, maybe, the messages.
Well, it'll be easier, too, to manage what goes where when we're writing an article.
Yes, sir.
So we want to clean stuff up. It's basically, if we had a garage.
Yeah.
And we were trying to organize the garage, these would be the empty boxes that we'd find piled up in the garage.
Right.
And we could have put something in them, but we didn't.
Right.
So we're going to get rid of those real quick. And those are also things that are probably confusing Google, because those will basically look like empty pages that Google sees as well. So they're not helping our SEO because we have a whole bunch of blank pages.
Right.
And let's see. Okay, we're getting there. A few more of these. And I see some of these as well that just have a single blog article in them. And I'm going to delete those categories as well.
Okay.
A handful of them at least. Well, there might be a couple that delete those. And then we'll get into the tag converter. which is also a bulk type of thing.
Okay, doke.
So we've just basically taken care of about 40 pieces of low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
And at the bottom, I come to the category to tag converter. And now there's lots of categories here. I'm scrolling through them somewhat quickly.
Right.
We want to do this with some forethought, though.
Right.
Now, we're pretty sure that what we see here, that some of these items have just been categorized quite a bit, but we know
Right. Over categorized.
right. So we know this is our future. We figured out the things that our articles should be about, the boxes they should get organized into.
Right.
So if we don't see one of these that belongs here, then they need to go to tags. So they need to be converted to tags. So traumatic brain injury in schools and children and adults, those are all tags. In Iraq, motivational speaker. I'm going to wait on recovery for just a second, and I'm going to wait on self-esteem as well.
Like the Thriver, treatment, a lot of those items, they can be converted or just gotten rid of because they're not.
Right. So I'm going to convert just these few here. I'm not going to do all of these. This is something that you'll be able to take on yourself offline a little bit better, because you'll know what's in some of these better than I do. In some cases,
Right.
I believe most of these need to go to tags, but we do need to eventually get all of our articles into our future categories as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to convert this first batch that we did, to tags.
Okay.
And so if you think about being inside of a cluttered garage,
right,
we've just taken some things and we've moved them out of the garage into a better place. We moved them to a different building, if you will, a building called tags.
Right. Now, with the other categories, say if I don't convert all the other ones that are in there, because I think that they apply, to categories, and they don't necessarily fall into the 10 or 11 categories that I have, say, under my video presentation article or my article categories. Are they gonna?
So let me do a quick search on acceptance, because one of our future ones is self-acceptance.
Right.
And we have two categories right now for awareness, acceptance, action, and one for acceptance.
Right.
Now we know that we want a future category to be self-acceptance. So my advice would be to go with the one that we've got and change acceptance to self-acceptance. Would that make sense?
Sure. Yep.
So first thing we'll do is we'll edit that. And I'm going to leave the slug as it is for now, for SEO purposes.
Okay.
So now we have our self-acceptance one. Another thing that we need to potentially look at doing is taking all of these articles and either sending them to tags or rolling them up under self-acceptance. For right now, I'm going to make this a subcategory of that new self-acceptance category that we just created. Sort of a holding ground, if you will. We may eventually send this to tags, or some of them to tags. But for now, I'm going to put all of those as a subcategory of self-acceptance.
Yeah, Brent, and with regards to, the categories that I have under my articles, I just indiscriminately made those. And I have I duplicated a lot of articles and I put them in there that they're in similar categories or other categories, because I want, again, to get the information to folks. So there may be duplication, and I just don't know whether that's going to undermine.
I understand, and I suspect with this one, awareness, acceptance, action, that probably, it may sometimes mention self-acceptance, but it probably doesn't very often.
Okay.
But I don't know the articles, and some of those will need to be culled through a little bit. So one way to do that would be to come over as we're looking at this category, awareness, acceptance, action. We've got this number for count. We can click on that number, and it will take us to a list of all the blog posts that mention that category or that are in that subcategory.
Right.
And we can now start to somewhat rapidly go through and say, do these articles actually cover, actually, let me change our screen options. I'm going to make this easier to read. I'm going to hide our tags, and I'm going to hide the view of the categories because we know which one we just came from. And I'm going to hide the author as well because we know who's writing the articles. It's you.
Right.
And I'm going to leave the publish date. That might be useful. So we're going to slim that down just a little bit. And we can now start to take a look at some of these titles, and we can maybe make a better assessment of what categories they might belong in. Now, here's an article that talks about 8th year anniversary for the site, right? If we do a quick edit on this, knowing that this is an anniversary thing, there's not going to be anything that actually falls into any of our categories. This is more of an article that's about what's happening with the site.
Right.
So we can, knowing that, we can go through and we can get rid of all the categories that this is under. We need some generic category for site updates or something like that, but we don't need these categories at all, because this is related to the site. It's not related to our actual topics.
Okay. So does it appear that each one of these are going to have to be manually gone through and unchecked?
Some of them will. That's not something you'll do all at once, but some of what we want to do is convert the obvious ones from categories to tags. And that will, then we want to go through and do some of these manually. And along the way, sometimes we find patterns,
Right.
groups of articles here or there that can be done slightly differently. And I'll maybe give you an example. So we just learned this one was an anniversary article. There might be other anniversary articles as well,
Right.
that need a similar workover.
Right. You see, I just checked all of these because I thought they applied. You know, what I present through Second Chance to Live can address all of these issues. They just have, you know, I didn't know better back then.
Yeah, no, I understand. And this was, especially in the early days of blogging, something that a lot of people did. You know, they used the category section like keywords and they loaded them up.
Right.
And, you know, and sometimes too, you know, I did it myself in the early days. It just, you know, you put everything that you thought might be applicable, but we were learning. And WordPress and the web was different then too, and things have changed and improved, and people together have discovered better practices, better ways of doing things, and not using all the categories or too many categories is one of those lessons that we've learned, and we can now apply and make our websites better for getting rid of it.
I really appreciate your empathy too.
I've seen lots and lots and lots of people do the same exact thing. And for anybody watching the video, you know, this is part of what it takes to clean stuff up. It's not always easy or pretty, but it sure will help your site. It takes some, you know, some elbow grease, some mouse and trackpad work. But just imagine how much time you're saving your visitors that are coming to your site because they'll be able to find what they're looking for.
Right. Yep. Tedious.
It can be a little tedious. There's several different ways to do this. I'm showing one way with just this one article, and we'll take a look at some others separately or offline, or we'll mention them in the comments of the video or something like that later.
Okay. Are you saying that there's an easier way to do this?
Well, consider I'm unchecking all these categories, right?
Right.
I wouldn't have to do that, or I wouldn't have to do as many categories if we converted more of them to tags.
Is there any way that we could just convert everything to tags and then have categories, or each article then is not necessarily going to have a category, right?
That's possible. Notice I'm going to leave uncategorized as is for the moment.
Okay.
And I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Okay, so we've changed all those categories out. Now, consider, I don't know how many there were, probably 40 or 50, maybe 60 or 70.
Right, maybe.
If those 50 or 60 or 70 categories had been converted to tags, I would not have had to swap those out. They would have already been done. That particular article would have not had the category anymore because it had been changed to tags. And you can have as many tags as you want. Tags is, I don't recommend having hundreds of them,
Right.
but it's easier to have tags and less confusing for people than categories.
Right.
So as I come back in here now, knowing what I just went through, first I want to find that uncategorized category. And I'm going to change this in description to something called general. I'm going to give it a different name. I'm going to leave the slug as is for now. For search engine reasons, I don't want to mess with that for right now, but that's just going to be general. So anytime in the future where you're talking about the site, something that doesn't fit in these future new categories,
yeah,
just give it that single category for general. You might be talking about, something you've done with the website, or a new theme, or a new style, or a new layout, or anything to deal with the website. Put it in general.
Okay.
And later you might come up with something different. You might want to call it admin stuff, or site related, or news about Second Chance to Live. Could be lots of different things.
Okay.
But for now, we'll call it general. We won't call it uncategorized because we did specifically want to choose where it went.
Right.
We don't want to make it look like it was something left undone.
Right.
But we'll leave it just like that. And I'm going to come back to our categories list. And let's make another pass through some of these. I'm going to, as I scroll through here, I'm going to look through some of our redundant ones. So we've got acquired brain injury, and then we've got acquired.
Yeah, why don't we get rid of this one too? Can I click too, or only you click?
We'll come back to it, but I wanted to point out that what we have here we've got acquired brain injury, and then we have a whole bunch of ands.
Yeah.
Now, acquired brain injury might be a decent category, but these
Okay.
are all sub-items of acquired brain injury, and I suspect they're probably duplicated in
Right.
the big one that has a
Right.
lot more
Yeah.
numbers.
Yep.
So as I'm learning the patterns of how these probably were put together, I can see that there were 635 in this one, only 102 here, 50 here, 597 here, 60, etc., right?
Right.
So they probably all roll up under there. Now, there's two ways that we could do it. We could make these all subcategories of acquired brain injury. That might be one way to organize it, or we could make these tags, and knowing that they're probably all in this roll-up big one here.
Right.
So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to look for other places where that might come in to be. We've got brain injury, a similar deal maybe. Association of Canada, injury associations, awareness and recovery. See, these are all be slight variations on that brain injury
Right.
category.
Right.
So I'm going to pull those over. And let's see. We've got some other similar ones. We've got empowering. And then we've got empowerment down here. I'm going to come back to those in just a second. I've got a different idea that I'd like to try.
Okie doke.
But we've got some living with the brain. Yep. And then same thing with disability, only.
1152 under living with a disability. Do you think that's overkill up there?
Might be, or it might not be. That's one where you might want to look at it a little bit more closely, looking for some trends, because we don't want to lose anything that was useful, but it's probably overkill. Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to put her into a tag.
Okay.
I doubt the site.
No.
Right?
No.
Usually whenever you have a person's name
Yeah.
that's mentioned, that's a tag. You're referencing that person. You're not writing about that person. I doubt you wrote
No.
420 articles about Oprah Winfrey. You might have mentioned her multiple times, but that's usually a good sign that it should have been a tag.
Okay.
Here's one with just a single one, self-pitying a way out. Spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Sometimes too, when it's really long words, that's usually a sign that it's probably a tag.
Okay.
Here's traumatic acquired brain injury, a couple of those that are sub items. Here's a whole bunch. Bullied, empowered. Just think, the next time we have to go through an article, all of these that we're checking off will be items that we won't have to manually work ourselves.
Excellent.
So we're reducing the individual amount of work that we'd have to do on those other articles the more we do. So sometimes you kind of have to get a feel for it. You do a little bit of manual work, and then as you're doing all that manual work, that's when the pattern starts to emerge and you can recognize it. You can do a little bit more over here, then you go back and do a little manual work. So it's usually some back and forth type things. So we'll convert those over to tags.
So tools, I'm noticing that's where these categories link to converter.
Right, that's a good question. Let me show you where this particular tool is as soon as it's done. It's still running in the address bar up here.
Okay.
When you do this many, sometimes it takes a while.
Right.
You can wait for it to update the database for each one of those categories that's getting converted into a tag.
No problem.
Okay, so we've converted all of those successfully. And I'd point out too, it's possible to go tags to categories as well. We could go in the other direction if we wanted to.
Right.
But generally, the easy way to find this, if we just went to tools, you wouldn't see it. But if you go into posts, and then you go to categories, it's kind of a three-stepper, and scroll all the way down to the bottom. Down here at the bottom, you'll see a link that says categories can be selectively converted to tags using the category to tag converter. And then there's a link down here that takes us into the tool. And that's how the main way that we get there. It happens to highlight this tool section down here, but you won't always necessarily easily see it.
Yes, sir.
So let's see, where are we with things? We started with 16 pages of categories, and we're down to 9 pages already. So we've gone a long ways in cleaning things up already.
Right. Let me get your opinion. I talk about abuse and abuse and trauma, etc. Adult children of alcoholics and how adult children of alcoholics are affected by brain injury, etc. But those categories were to help people that have been affected by that particular growing up with that as well as. But I just don't know. I want my website to have a universal appeal as it does have the application. However, I don't know whether I need to eliminate those or whether I need to, how I need to handle those because of the categories, what category I should, where these are going to go into.
I would think that adult children of alcoholics would be your category here.
Okay.
we have some goals, some categories that we want to be as our primary categories in the future. Adult
Right.
children of alcoholics is not really one of these listed.
It's primary down to on recovery. It's kind of sort of that way in a way.
So, so one of the things we might see is that all these, all those categories, all the articles in this particular section should be in that on recovery category.
This person can be eliminated too, because she was like an Oprah Winfrey, you know.
Oh, the Bob Woodruff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more. Yep. So that's something that can be done. So one of the things we want to do is we want to consolidate some of these categories into another.
Okay.
I believe, if memory serves, that requires a different plugin. So I can't remember if we can do it by deleting a category, if we need to, or it might be merge categories. I'm trying to remember. Must probably merge categories. Merge term, set term, parents in bulk, and swap term taxonomies. I think this is one. Let's get some more details and double check it real quick. That hasn't been tested. Let's not go with that one. This one. Maybe it's category management. Here's one. Use post categories. Don't think that's going to do what we need it to do.
Thank you again for your help on this, Brett.
No problem. I might have to come back on this particular one where we want to. Let me test something real quick.
Okay, doke.
Building self-esteem. Let me. No, that doesn't allow me to. Sometimes the tool I'm thinking of allows you. It asks you if you want to merge something before you delete it. Couldn't remember if that was standard functionality or not. So this is a start. We've got more to do. The point of all this, getting back to the magazine theme, tie this back in a little bit, is we want to be able to come up with these bigger level headings.
Right.
And have an article like this not show up here when we're changing something. We don't want an anniversary article to show up in every single category on the site.
Right.
We want it to only show up where it's supposed to show up, where it relates. And we can actually see that we had moved all the brain injury caused by explosion categories into a tag. So there are no articles there for that anymore.
Right.
I believe we do have some for brain injury itself. And we also have a nice image to go with that one. So let's change that to can't quite get my spell check to go. So now we've got an article there. Now you'll notice that this is a pretty tall image. Knowing that there's a tall image there, I could come in and change the text to show some more text here, but the next article that comes along that gets published here may not have an image that tall.
Right.
One of the things that will be important in the future is to make sure that you start using the same size and dimensions of images where you can.
Yes, sir.
And that will help the site get a little bit more organized. We've got a couple more articles that are showing up in concussions in sports. They don't really mention sports here in the beginning, so I'm guessing they're probably, that same particular category probably doesn't belong there.
Right. Actually, a lot of the articles on concussion in sports, they don't really apply to my particular website, although the information can help people who have experienced concussion related to sports.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's necessarily a category that needs to be eliminated, or
it probably does, or it needs to be reviewed so that anything that is in that section only relates specifically to someone that's gone through this with sports.
Right.
And we've actually moved that as that category has become a tag now anyway.
Right.
So change it to creating hope just to get our example updated. There's nothing. So now we've got two different books. We've set it such that the image shows up on left on one of them and on the right on the other.
Do we want them both on the right or both of them on the left, or both? Like
that becomes a choice that you make. Sometimes, if you remember, for everybody else that's watching, we had talked a little bit about the Huffington Post and their magazine layout.
Right, right.
A lot of times they like to shift the image around. It breaks things up and makes things a little less boring for people that are visiting.
Right.
Pay attention or re-engages them a little bit.
Yes.
So they can focus. And so that's kind of an open question as to what's right for this particular site. I'm going to come down. There's one more section that comes with this. And let's see. Pull in just one more quick section of items.
Since you've done all this work, do we want to activate this, or what would you recommend going forward, Brett?
We could if you wanted to. That's up to you. This is going to be a work in progress for a while.
Right. So is there any way that we could save what we've already done?
Not in this particular, not with this particular setup right now.
Okay, so if we change it, then we're going to have to come back and actually redo it.
We could change it. Would you like to? If so, what I'd need to do real quick while we're still on the video is I would need to move all of these items that are currently at the top and put them in their appropriate place on the right.
What do you think would be most effective at this point, or beneficial?
I think it would probably be more beneficial to get this ball moving and start to get things changed. It will give you the incentive and to get in there and continue doing some of the category work that you're doing.
Sure.
Converting those items to tags. And
Sure.
then the next step will be to go through and find, after they've been converted to tags, find the items that belong in these new categories and get them set up there.
Are you going to help me walk me through doing that?
If you'd like to do it, I'll clean up the top part, and then you can do some of the category to tag conversion. I'll let you go on your own for maybe an hour or so, and we'll catch back up online and or
Okay,
offline, that is,
sure.
and we'll see where you are and if you have questions or something like that, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay,
Make
that'd be
sense?
good. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm
Sounds
gonna
good. So, okay, go ahead and change around these things to make it more.
so I'm gonna save and activate that, which allows me to then move. Now, here's the site right now. It's a little broken looking. We don't want that. What we do want to do though is go into the normal widget management section of WordPress. And from here, we have all these items that by default fell into the header right section.
Yes,
And
sir.
we don't want them to stay there. We want those to be moved into our primary sidebar. And so I'm going to simply drag and drop these down. And actually, we don't need the calendar up there anymore because we moved that into the footer. A couple of these we don't
Right.
need where we have them.
I like to leave the translate fairly close to the top on the
Okay.
sidebar for sake of letting people know that that tool is available to them.
That makes sense. And we might even want to place it in there a couple times in a couple different places.
Sure, that'd be fine. I let you. I go on your based on your discretion with that, sir.
Sure. Well, and some of this, I'm going to move some of these around and we'll eyeball them and we might see some
Okie
ways
doke.
to place it. Sometimes we just kind of have to test these things and see what looks right afterwards. So I'm going to refresh. There was our before, and here's our after. And that's a list of the article. Let me get to the home page. So here is our current home page. And at the top, we have the translation.
Right.
We have the first article, which right now we're showing the most recent article, and we're showing it in full.
Right.
Then it moves into articles on self-esteem and self-improvement. So those may change because you're going to be doing some more category cleanup. And we have a few other sections. Now eventually we can have a lot of these sections. We might have a section for each one of those future categories that we want. You'll notice though that we're missing something important. I'll give you a hint. It used to be up here at the top near the title.
Right.
We're missing our menu. So we need to come in here and find our menu and turn that back on. So what we need to do here is we have a menu system. It's saved in WordPress. We need to set the menu location. And this particular theme has two menu options. I'm going to turn it on one first, and we'll see if we like it there. And then
Okay.
we'll look at the new one and see if we would prefer it in the other spot. So initially, one of the places is at the top. It's above our title.
Yeah.
And we may or may not like it up there. Alternatively, we have two other options. We could put it below the title of our site. So there it is before. Here it is after. This particular site, I kind of like it down here better myself.
Me too.
Now, we have two lines of menu items here. One
Yeah.
thing that we could do is we could have two menu systems. We could have the home and about section, or maybe the home and the contact button.
Yeah.
They could, and the video ebook, let's say, could be up here in the top section.
Right.
So to do something like that, we could create a new menu, and I'm going to call it new top menu, just being descriptive about where it's going.
Sure.
It could be something like fundamental buttons, or there could be a number of different ways to describe that.
Right.
And I'm going to pull the contact, selecting a couple pages over here on the left. I'm going to add that to the menu. I believe we want the home button. I'm not sure if that's an actual page or if we need to. I think that might be a custom link. Okay, so we need a custom link for second chance to live.org. We're going to call it home.
You have okay. Yeah.
Add that. And video ebook and the e-booklet maybe could be up there as well. We could this is something that you may want to work on more yourself offline. Actually, I'm going to take how to use and translate and move those up there just because they're single menu buttons right now.
Okay.
You may want the about up there as well, but that would require adding each of these pages as well to the to that future menu. So
What would you suggest?
I would probably put the about up there,
Okay.
but it doesn't have to happen just this minute. We don't want to lose anything, but at the same time, we can't do everything all at once either.
Right.
So we kind of how to use, and I'm going to put the translate button up there as well because we have that also showing up elsewhere, right?
Right.
And we may not even need that translate button with those links. Let's see. Oops, wrong one. Oops, I think I.
What are all these colors in admin screen? Do you think I need to have anything fancy schmancy about those?
That's up to you. That's completely user preference type of thing.
Right, but do you think that they would make it nicer, more presentable, or distracting?
It's in the admin, so it's all about your, not anyone else's, but your color preferences. Because you're the only one that will see them.
Okay. You mean other people won't necessarily see? Sorry, I'm distracting you.
Nope, no one will see the admin colors. Okay, save my work this time, unlike last time. And now I can add that second menu. And we're going to take those redundant buttons now out of our old menu, the home, the translate, and the contact buttons. So we've created a bunch more space. Probably be good to get just a little bit more. Maybe I can get that how to use button down there too. Okay, that's cleaned up quite a bit.
Yes, it is.
So we've made a bunch of changes, and one of the important things about these changes is now when people look at it on a mobile screen,
Right.
our menu becomes mobile responsive, so they'll be able to click this and see some drop outs, expand out type things.
Excellent.
Our primary sidebar goes down below our content. So they see the good stuff first. They see our content now. And later, when they need to get into some other options, they get these down below. One thing that we can do, since our subscribe by email option is now very far down, we could even add that in a widget in an additional place up top. So let me show you. I'm going to go back into widgets. We might put it in there twice. And let me see where that is. Subscribe. So here is our subscribe text. I'm going to come in. That was a different widget. I'm going to put that down here just below the middle section. Blog subscriptions, Jetpack. That's the one we're looking for. I'm going to add that to the middle section. Recustomize it. Hit save. And refresh. And now there's another subscribe button down here. And when somebody's looking at it on a mobile view, they'll be hit up with a subscribe option here if they're interested in subscribing as they're scrolling through.
Okay.
A little faster. We can move that into other locations. We could hide it in certain circumstances as well. We might hide it if, let's see. I don't know if we can hide it on mobile. We might have to, we could do some other things later possibly to hide it in certain circumstances, but I'm going to leave that for now. But kind of gives you an idea. How do you like the color of this? Because we do have some color options with this particular theme, I believe.
I had it blue on the other side. It may be more appealing if there's some color to it.
Sure, we can. There's 3 or 4 different colors that come with this theme from a perspective of the fonts and things like that. It doesn't change.
It also, is there a way to change the font? Because on some of my articles, it's different font. You know, I told you about that. You said that in GoDaddy that there's a potential to change all the font to be one, you know, say a New Roman Times, or, you know, just so that there's not a...
that ability. This theme currently does not. And actually, I see the updates are available now. Let me pull those for the theme are available. Let me pull those in real quick.
Okay, okay.
And we'll get your updates running. The most recent version of Genesis might give us a couple of new options as well. This is one magazine theme. There are others, and this can get you started. This will help you start to organize things and see how they change in the display and the information that the site offers. But you may find that you'll want to evolve into something else in the future after you get going with this. So I would suggest as well that wherever you can, try to get images
Right.
your articles and get those loaded as the featured image. And,
yeah, I'm having a difficult time with regards to, say, with that Pexels I told you about. That when I click on that, some of the article or the free pictures are Shutterbox, and I don't know whether, you know, it's got that watermark on them. So,
yeah, there will always be some that if they've got a watermark, my general recommendation would be don't use it.
right.
And that usually means probably that some images are free and some are not, and if it has a watermark, then it's not free and you'll need to go pay for it somewhere, which might not be an option for this particular site. So you just have to keep looking if you find them with a watermark. Some of those sites are easier to use than others. You kind of have to go with what works for you. Everybody's different.
Yeah, and I've looked at Flickr, like we talked about that one time, Brett. Flickr, and I don't see a whole lot of free pictures on there. I don't know. Am I not looking in the right correction? Select right area.
Right. Last night I found a tool. I tweeted it out at one point. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I don't remember the name of it now. But hang on just a second. LibraStock.com. This is a tool that essentially it allows you to look for images through many different free photo sites all at once from one place. So they give the example of cute puppies. You can come in then, and then you'll notice download at Barn Images, that's one place, or Pixabay, a different place I think we were just talking about. StockSnap, there's several of them, and you can go another one from Pixabay and find the one that that you might like. But this takes you to all those different places to then pick and choose what you might want. So coming in here, we can then see the free download. You download the image, and then you can upload it as you need to.
So when I've been doing it in the past, that I right click and I say save as, and then I'm saving it to a particular, because if I try to download, I've tried to download it in the past, and then it just opens up. It opens up, at least the ones that I've done, opens up to the full screen, and then I'm not sure how to, so do I
make sure you're clicking on? And every site's different, so this one you have to click this free download button. Don't click the image itself. And
then it goes up here, and then when it downloads, I right click it to open to the containing folder, and in there, then what do I do? Click on that, and I say save as to my other folder that I've created.
Keep in mind, every site's different, so I cannot give you an answer that will tell you how to use each and every site, because they're all the sites are different. Some of them you'll need to right click and save as, but this one, that would not work. You need to left click this free download, or single click if you're on a Mac, the free download button, to trigger a pop-up that makes sure that you're a person, and then it'll allow you to download. So everyone's different. You're gonna have to follow the rules on that on each site.
Okay. Well, that helps me. I'm agreeing on this. I really appreciate that.
No problem. But LibreStock is that new tool, and I've just been looking at it for the last couple of days. I do find it useful.
Okay, cool.
Quick. So
do you think that I should change the color scheme to make it more than the black and white to something else?
I think this is a good start. I think you should focus on organizing the site first.
Okay.
And we'll worry about the colors later.
Okay.
And kind of go from there.
Okay.
Sound good?
That sounds awesome.
So your homework is to go into your categories and start converting those items that shouldn't be categories today into tags.
Okay.
And then we'll follow up from there and get the articles that are left organized into the categories that they need to be in, the future categories that we don't have yet.
Okay, thank you so much, Brett. That helps. And I appreciate all the work that you put into it, and it looks great, and it's more accessible. And thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. And we'll do some more of these, and we'll figure out what's next and help this site evolve.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and kindness.
Appreciate it too. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, so long.